Welcome to SF Commercial Property Conversations with Bruce Bean, where Bay Area investments meet expert insights. Get ready to unlock the strategies of commercial real estate success.
So today we have Lara Boyko with us, and Lara is a real estate attorney on dealing with infrastructure. So Lara, it's great to have you. I'm just very curious about how you even got into this business and your history of real estate and so forth.
Well, before I get into the history, I have the JD, but I am not a licensed attorney. So I want to make sure that, it's understood I'm not a practicing attorney. Okay. As far as how I got into this, it was, I'll honestly, I answered an ad on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
I was in the traditional real estate world, and I was struggling with traditional real estate because it's a dog eat dog industry. And I absolutely love the real estate industry. And after going to law school and, just really enjoying that aspect of the world as well, I wanted to stay in the real estate industry, but I wanted to do something that would be a good marriage between my legal brain and my real estate brain. And so I happened to see an ad on LinkedIn for a senior right-of-way agent. And as I'm reading the description, I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds great. This is a lot of the concepts that I learned about in my real property class in law school, which, by the way, nobody enjoys their real property class in law school.
That's true. Yeah.
I am a little bit odd in that sense, where I was happy as a clam in that class. And I am so lucky I'm actually still friends with my real property professor to this day. So, I just wanted to find something that, brought me joy that could keep me into real estate. I ended up finding this job. I applied for it and I got a call back right away. And I was like, okay, I guess I meet a lot of their qualifications. We'll see how this goes. So, I interviewed. They brought me in for an in-person and then said, hey, do you want to come and work with us? I was like, yes.
Why not? So give us a little description of infrastructure real estate. You've already told me some very fun stories about dealing with property and property owners. So anyway, we can go into that in a minute.
Structure real estate. This is dealing with right-of-way and easement parts of property. So in a right-of-way, that's more of like being able to travel across land, like a street or your road outside of your neighborhood to get to your local Starbucks. Whereas an easement, the black letter law version is a non-possessory interest in the land of another. So an easement would be like, your sidewalk in front of your home. The city owns an easement on it where they have put a sidewalk so that it's safe for you to walk on, but the property owner still owns the underlying property interest in that piece of property. So the city has a non-possessory interest in your land.
Oh, that's I never thought about that, but the sidewalk goes over the top of the land, but you still own the land, and the city basically owns the concrete or the sidewalk.
Or you could even look at an easement as, utilities. Your utility companies have a non-possessory interest in your parts of your property so that they can furnish your home with electricity, water, gas. So, all of those very niche kinds of concepts in real estate, that's what I nerd out over.
Okay. So yeah. So you've had some now you go nationwide with this service. And obviously you've had some fun in Texas where you're dealing with property owners. Give us one example of this, what happens.
Um, well, it's a very regional kind of experience that a right-of-way agent has. So down in Texas, you do have to, when you're getting say a right of entry agreement or you're purchasing an easement on somebody's land, you do need to talk to them and say, sir, do you have any livestock on your property that we need to be mindful of when we come onto your land for our survey or our appraisal work? Are there any locked gates? And I bring this one up because lo and behold, I actually did work on a project about 2 years ago down in Texas. I was getting right of entry agreements for a natural gas pipeline. And at 5 a.m. my Pacific time, I get a call from the property owner. He's blowing up my phone. And that's because I had a survey crew out on his land to do a cultural and biological survey. And they get to the padlock is broken, and they thought, oh, okay, we'll just keep going. Well, there were notes in the file that you're supposed to call and give 24 hours notice, but they didn't read the note. So they proceed to go on to this gentleman's land. And when they get there, the property owner is waiting for them. And he's waiting for them because he has two missing heifers. And he is just fit to be tied because you do not mess with a Texas property owner's heifers, okay? And
No.
what happened was somebody else had been on the land. They broke the padlock on the gate. The heifers had decided to take a walk around the neighborhood, and it was just bad, being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And after I talked to the property owner, I talked to my field reps and I said, are you guys okay? Are you safe? Now do me a favor. Don't blink, but tell me yes or no. Is there a gun involved right now? And calmly, the gentleman on my team that I talked to, he says, yes, ma'am. He said, um, thank you for letting me know. Please hand me back to the property owner for a little bit. And then I got one of my managers to call the property owner back, and we were able to talk that property owner down because you know what? In right of way work, you are a good neighbor. So if you have let out some livestock, you stick around, you help find that wandering heifer. Okay.
Right.
And but no, we got the property owner, we talked him down, and our two field reps left the property quite quickly. And
Very quickly. Yes.
I followed up with the two reps and I was like, are you guys all right? I really hope you went home and either had a glass of wine with dinner or you had a beer with dinner tonight, because I think you've earned it.
Yeah, you've earned it. Yeah, you got the heifers back. Your rattlesnake guards were, yeah.
Yeah,
Working.
that's another thing, in especially in Texas and with these rural areas, you have to dress for the occasion. So when you're into the field, not only are you wearing jeans, a cowboy hat for sun protection, but you're also wearing boots. And the boots, while they might be steel toed, they're definitely going to have a rattlesnake guard on them because rattlesnakes do live out on vacant land. So I just never thought that when I grew up, I was going to have to go onto Amazon and look for rattlesnake guards as part of my, going out to do my job. So it's actually, the right of way world is very dynamic. There's always something different happening, a different challenge. But what's great about the right of way world is that, for the most part, people work together. It's a very collaborative environment. when I'm talking to somebody at a county public works office, they realize that this project that I'm working on is for the good of the public. So, I don't get a runaround as much. Instead, it's like, okay, you know what? Let's work together, which is so refreshing after being in traditional real estate where, people are trying to beat you over the head with the contract details.
Yeah.
And
No, it's
now,
a dog eat dog world.
so, I'm very blessed. I mean, I've worked on some great projects that involve street widening to accommodate a bus expansion line. I have worked on transmission line projects. I've even worked on some renewable energy projects to put community solar in California. I worked on some trying to acquire land for data centers, which is the big buzz in the renewable energy sector right now because a lot of the other renewable energy projects are on hold. So it's just this wonderful dynamic world where things are just constantly moving and you get to be on your toes at all time. It's still the same principles of traditional real estate in the sense where, you're having to look at zoning on land and, the whatever local ordinances might be applicable to the kind of use you want to use on the land. Your client wants to make use on the land. But, it's just, it's fun. It's, exciting.
Yeah. So give us a little clue about what the current market is for right-of-ways. I mean, is this a busy time for you, or is this a lull in action? What's happening out there?
Well, you know what? That's the kind of the great thing about, or it's a double-edged sword sometimes because, one, easements are not listed on the multiple listing service.
No. Yeah. Right.
Sometimes I'm the realtor that's coming to you that you don't want to meet because I'm going to try to acquire a portion of your land, the
Right.
second investment. But you know what? There are always public works projects in place, and depending on what the current political climate is, that will also impact right of way work because, for instance, right now, we're not as focused on renewable energy projects.
Mm.
It's more oil and gas projects that are, being developed right now.
Right.
Well, it just depends on, what type of client I'm working with, whether they're a a private developer or whether it's a public entity, and what kinds of projects they're focused on and they have budgeted.
So how many people work for Skyline?
Right now, it's actually just me, myself, and I.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're independent.
I am completely independent. And you know what? It's because I wanted to stay in this industry after being in the consulting world. And when nobody else would really give me a shot last year, I decided, you know what? I'm going to take the leap of faith. The net will appear and I'm going to start my own show. So
Wow.
I, went through all the processes to get my SBE, my SB, my small business public works,
Oh,
DBE, which I may have changed because the DBE certification has been a little bit in flux in the last few months because the criteria is changing. But I realized that, you know what, I love this industry and I'm going to bet on myself. I am going to, do great things, even if nobody wants to hire me as an employee.
so you're out there marketing yourself to utility companies, to all the people out there that potentially need right away.
Well, yeah. And in fact, even like, trying to partner up with engineering firms or developers, because let's face it, I love the engineers of the world. They have a very important part of this project, but please do not send an engineer out to talk to a property. I'm but it's just not a good situation. Okay.
No, I can see where that would lead to some fairly disastrous results. So, yeah, yeah, not
It's,
not
you
the personal touch you need.
Yeah. And, look, I have no problem with being the window dressing that goes out to, talk to the property owner to get the easement or talk to them about, selling their land that is not listed for sale or leasing their land that is not listed for sale because it's part of the challenge of my work that I really enjoy. And it's part of the relationship building that I get to do with every single property owner I encounter. I get to meet people. I get to learn about who they are, about what's important to them. And, look, if they want to create if they have some farmland that they've had in the family for generations and they don't want to lose it. But, the farming industry has become just so tough, whether it's because of regulations or just because of, weather patterns. Well, I might have a solution for you where, I've got a client that would like to lease that land from you to put up a community solar project. And you're just going to sit back and collect, basically rental payments on it for the next 20 to 25 years.
Yeah, what could be better than that? Yeah, so all good.
So it's that's what one of the things I love. And also, the projects that I work on, even if it's just a simple street widening project that makes it a little bit that gives us an extra lane on a road so that we can get home faster and traffic isn't as congested. To me, that that's leaving a legacy for me. I don't have children and I'm not going to have children. So to be able to work on projects where I feel like I'm going to leave some good in this world other than, my quick wit and my love of, instead, I love being able to drive by a project and see that, what, I touched that in some way. I get that data center built. I helped get that community solar project developed so that it will help improve grid reliability in especially in California, in our aging infrastructure grid. So, to me, that's part of also why I decided to start my own shop. It's because, what? I love what I do. It brings me.
Yeah, brings you joy for sure. It's so are your clients mostly utility companies or cities or public domain folks out there that can get public domain, or are they more property owners?
It's a mix. It's not necessarily a landowner, although, what? If a landowner wanted to hire me because somebody from a utility company came and said, "Hey, we need to negotiate with you," I would love to, as long as I don't have a conflict of interest, would love to help, guide a property owner through the process. And the process and especially when public funds are used, there is a defined process for how everything is supposed to move.
Right.
So, it's just a matter of I can help guide them through it and say,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
You can go through both sides, kind of like being a real estate agent for the buyer or the seller, so to speak. So you can work on both sides of the equation to help
I
everybody.
I can, but I will never. But one of the things I learned in my traditional real estate days was that I'm never going to do a dual agency transaction.
No, no, that particularly in your field, that would be a total conflict, I would think. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know what? I like sleeping at night, and
Yeah. You don't want to be thinking about, oh, well, I can't represent both sides of this transaction.
like, but at the same time, like, okay, here's another interesting story. I was working on a project here in Southern California for a municipality, and they wanted to cut 6 inches into the rectory of a church.
Oh, wow. Okay. Only 6 inches.
6 inches, and I was just
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, good Lord. Somebody does not like me somewhere. If I'm going to go have to negotiate with a pastor of a church.
Yeah.
So I go to the church. I'm sitting across the desk from the pastor, and he's a big, formidable looking gentleman. Very nice. Big teddy bear, really, but he made sure that, he knew that I was dealing with, with God, basically.
Yeah.
And me and his wife is there too. He looks at me and goes, okay, Lara, I see this offer you have, but I'm just not sure. So, you know, what would you do if you were in my position?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I do not want a lightning bolt coming down to strike me while I'm sitting here.
Right.
But in all seriousness, I said, honestly, sir, if you want to have some peace of mind, you do have the right to get an appraisal of your own, and it will be reimbursed up to $5,000. So why not go get your own appraisal done? And that way you can verify that what my client is offering you is just compensation.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
He looked at me and goes, Laura, I trust you. And I appreciate that you are making this great recommendation for me. So, you know, thank you. And they ended up not getting the appraisal done, but it was just that moment of him realizing, okay, I am not, some shady agent that's going
Right.
to try to pull the wool over you just so that I can get this done. But instead, it's like, no, you have the right to be able to get your own appraisal and you're going to get reimbursed for it. So enjoy some peace of mind.
Yeah. And he was like, No, I trust what you're telling us." Yeah.
Have fun.
So it all worked out well.
It did. And no lightning bolts appeared, which made me.
That was good. Where was that? Is that a California person?
It was actually down here in Southern California. And it was really funny because after we got up the paperwork together, the pastor did invite me to come to Sunday, his Sunday sermon
Oh,
sometime.
that's fun. That's great. Yeah. Why not? Yeah. All good. Yeah. And then you probably brought the church some money, which couldn't hurt.
Exactly. But even better, the my client decided to not cut into the rectory, and I actually,
Okay.
about 2 weeks ago, and and it was a random drive by, but I drove by it and I was like, oh look, they did not have to rebuild because of 6 inches, a 6 inch tape.
Yeah, that sounds like, yeah. Look, there are more creative solutions here. Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. Well, where can people get a hold of you, Lara? Uh, because I think there are both property owners and utilities and other folks that might want to be talking to you.
Love that. So they can either email me at the email address under my picture here, lara.boyko@gmail.com. Look, and I have had my phone number on my business cards for probably 20 years now, so I have no problem releasing that. It's 310-920-5675, and my DBA for my business is Skyline Land Services. And I do have a website, skyline landservices.com. And, just by email and my cell really are the best way to reach me. Plus, I'm also on LinkedIn. I've heard that there are other Lara Boykos out there, but we are not the same. You got to look for the short blonde hair and,
Well, yours is Laura A. Boyko.
yes, it's Lara A. Boyko. And, I just, I'm here to help people. I'm here to help people understand very difficult processes in a niche of real estate that they normally probably wouldn't think of. They think it's very scary. And, I was very fortunate years ago. I went through a scary situation and somebody explained the process to me. And ever since then, I've been trying to pay it forward, at least in my professional life, by saying, look, it may sound scary that somebody wants to come and get an easement on your property. However, it's a very, simple process, and we're going to take it one step at a time.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, I look forward to speaking again in 6 months and hearing more fun stories about all the property rights that you get into.
Absolutely. No, and I'll definitely let you know if that gentleman down in Texas who that he would be pulling out a beach chair and his shotgun if I were to step on his property land with that
Well, okay. I'm pretty sure you're not going to get shot, but please be careful down there. Okay. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
That's a wrap on today's journey through the SF commercial real estate scene. Ready to share your story? Visit sfcommercialconversations.com/guest. Your insights could lead the next conversation.